Hi guys, it's April and I garden down in southeast Nebraska. And as you can see behind me, it's a little bit windy right now. I do garden down in zone 6A, and right now we are in a heat advisory. So right now, still early morning and it is almost 90 degrees. I'm not excited about it, but what can you do? You just have to kind of roll with whatever the weather gives you. So yesterday, today, tomorrow, Saturday, the rest of the weekend, it's just going to be really, really hot, which means the plan is to try and keep as much alive and protected as possible. I'm probably going to be watering the pots at least twice a day for a little while, and then maybe doing a little bit of supplementary watering here and there. I do have most things on a watering system, so I don't have to do it all by hand, but I'm going to have to keep my eye out to make sure that things aren't drying out too much. Well, let me show you what the garden looks like. I'm going to start with my little nursery area first because I don't know if I showed you this last time. I've got some of my replacement squash coming up, which is exciting. I'll probably plant out the angel hair relatively soon because it's getting its true leaves. I'm gonna wait a little bit on the pumpkins until they're bigger so they don't get eaten out of the ground, but I do think I need to water those. Otherwise, we've got this that just doesn't want to stay. Anyways, after I fix the trellis, this is a dwarf tomato. And then if I can come around the swing, I've got some basil finally starting to sprout and come up. So that's exciting. Of course, we've got the peach tree with the chives and the strawberries. I did finally put up this trellis. And as you can see, that trellis, you can kind of see it, that trellis back there. This one down here is going to eventually house one of the pumpkins, even though you can see some of last year's beans sprout up. And then this one is, of course, going to do both of these pumpkins right here. But it's also going to give room for the ground cherries to come up, which I think I definitely need to thin out just a little bit. And I don't need that much ground cherries, but they're there, along with the wall of flowering dill, which is so silly. It's pretty and it smells delicious, but wow, that's a lot of dill. But down here, I just wanted to show you this pumpkin, if I can get you in the right spot. I did start wrapping the stems so that it had some protection against bugs and other things. I was out here the other day watering and weeding when I looked at specifically the pumpkin that I just showed you, and it was just crawling with roly-polies who were eating the leaves and everything else. It wasn't squash bugs, it was roly-polies. I've seen maybe one squash bug so far. I've been told that there have been others in the garden and they've been removed, but I've only seen one. It's mostly been the roly-polies all over this plant right here, and they were going for the stem, especially at the base. So I decided that it is time to start wrapping at least the pumpkins. I wrapped the plant behind me and of course the other one on the trellis as well. I don't know if it's going to work. I've never used athletic tape like this before, bandage tape. I've heard and seen good things about it. I've just never done it in my garden, so I'm hoping that it'll preserve these plants so I actually get pumpkins off of them, because it has been years since I have been able to use my own pumpkins for decorating, and I'm very much hoping that this will be the year. But since we are talking about squash, I did want to, first of all, I'm going to stand back and show you how amazing these squashes look. We've got a zucchini, a butternut, and a butternut hybrid of some kind. And they're looking so good right now. I am so excited because I was also looking in here and it's a little misformed, but we do have a bunch of promise for some good squash this year. Even though I may have miscalculated in putting them in the bed with my peppers. The peppers are coming back, which is good. I just have to make sure that the ones that are close to the squash plants get some sunlight. So every once in a while I'm rearranging leaves so that some of the pepper plants actually have room to breathe. Like this poor guy down here. He's getting so much shade. But he's greening up. He was looking so bad. So maybe the shade is actually good for it. It'll protect them from the heat right now. And I did come through and thin out this cilantro. For some reason the name just left me. I thinned out the cilantro because it was starting to hinder the poblano, and I've got a jalapeno right back there. It was starting to smother both of them. And while I do want some coriander, I don't want it at the cost of my pepper plants. As you can see, the wind has picked up today, and it's forecasted to be like this for the whole rest of the week. I'm not super excited about it. I kind of passed over the potatoes, but the potatoes are looking good. We're even starting to get some flower buds. So this should be flowering soon, which is a good sign. We've got the tomato plants that are looking all right. And then we've got the cucumbers that are really starting to come in, along with the runner beans. So that whole area is looking really, really green. I don't know if I want to let that carrot go to seed. I might end up chopping that down. I don't know. But it's doing whatever the heck it wants right now. And then of course we've got, I'm still dealing with whatever this is. I'm pretty sure it's the compost at this point because it's on very specific beds that are pretty much all new soil. The stuff that has the older soil isn't looking like this. And even the pots that I filled up with the compost and stuff I got this year, they're looking this way. But the older pots that I just did a refresh aren't. So I'm pretty confident it is some kind of either very hot compost, or there might be something in the compost that is throwing the poor tomato plants off. But I've also noticed some aphids and things like that. So I've been spraying them down. I think it's helping. And I'm just spraying them with high-powered water. Plus, with the heat, they've been enjoying that. I did want to show you, see if I can find it. We have some of our first tomatoes starting to grow. And I'm excited about that. I don't remember what plant this is. Hold on. Let's see if I can set you up and I can find the tag. Ah, that's a Kaylee Ann Pink. So that is one of the Starfighter tomatoes. I'd be surprised if that is going to be the first tomato I get this year. Yeah, otherwise not much has changed. in the tomato world, I probably do need to start thinking about harvesting some of my onions. They've bulbed up pretty well, so I am going to have a good harvest this year. I don't normally put them in storage, at least dry storage. I normally put them in the freezer. So what I'll do when I have time is I will harvest as many onions as I think I can process, and then I'll sit there and I'll do some chopped, I'll do some diced, and then I'll put them in freezer bags. They're airtight bags that I'll put them in. I'll suck up all the air so that I have more room, of course, in my freezer, and so that it's less likely to get freezer burned. And I'll portion them out. I have reusable bags that I do this for, and then I'll have onions for the whole rest of the year. But what I like about this is I can leave them in the ground until I am ready to process them. So I could start processing some of them right now as I have time, and then just slowly through the season work through all my onions instead of having to do a whole flush at once, unless things are starting to look bad and then I have to get my butt in gear and I have to process the whole batch at once. But I did want to show you this area. One of the greenhouses was having a sale since today is the solstice. I think it's the solstice today. And so a lot of the greenhouses in the area are having solstice sales. So I picked up some plants since, of course, my zinnias aren't coming up this year. So I have some of these adorable candy cane zinnias. So they're pink and white, and they're so cute. And then I have some white Gerber daisies and some white straw flowers. And I just think it fills in the area a little bit so it doesn't feel as bare. I am hoping to fill in the rest of the area. I have some zinnia seeds coming, and I'll probably just put a few seeds in some nursery pots and then eventually plant them out. I won't get blooms as early as I would like, but hopefully I still get some zinnia blooms that can go in this area. I'm also still waiting on a kiwi plant for right there. It's saying I'm not going to get it until July now. Not wholly excited about that, but I'll try to be patient. But otherwise, I did plant some Veronica, which is a perennial, so that'll come back each year. And then I'm still waiting for the dahlias and the sunflowers. We're starting to get heads on some of these sunflowers. So we'll be seeing those soon, but I'm trying to be patient. But I can take you back this way. We're in a little bit of a waiting pattern with the garden at the moment. So I'll just kind of show you the garden as it stands. I will note that I don't think these are ever going to sprout. The fact that it's only the one variety that has managed to sprout is a little concerning, which is why I'm a little leery on whether or not the rest of these grapes are going to come up. I mean, I'm still giving them time. I'm a little fearful it just won't happen. But I did start to trellis this guy down here, which is exciting. But otherwise, my milkweed is starting to flower. Haven't seen any caterpillars yet. I normally don't, but it's all there just in case. These carrots are looking good, which is why I'm contemplating pulling that other carrot plant. Because if it is an actual carrot and not a weed, I don't think it should be going to seed yet. I know it's the second year for it. but it's making me nervous. So I might just, like I said, pull that other one. I have been using the green onions like crazy. They have gotten so thick and they are delicious. I love that variety. I'm probably going to have to do it again. And I got it on a sale or something like that, or just an off chance that it might be good. And it's worked so well for me. Just look at the blooms on the eggplants. These guys have bounced back in a way that just makes me excited. And of course we've got the wind, which is actually feeling really nice right now because it is just so heavy. The garlic, I think, has to start being pulled soon. As you can see, some of it starting to brown up right there. And I also need to weed this bed, so please ignore that. But we do have some more squash over here. So yay! Might be a little interesting trying to harvest some of these since I put everything in such a tight spot. And the tomato plants are growing. They're just looking spindly. I did have to put a lot of new compost in this bed, which is what we're seeing here. I think next year I'm going to go with a different compost. See if I have better luck. Otherwise, we've got some more onions, and that's it for these raised beds. I can take you through the pots around the fire pit. See if I can get out of my own shot. So this is the first cluster right here. The peppers are looking really good. I do find it interesting that this one tomato plant, it's growing up and not necessarily out. I don't know. It's growing though, so I can't really complain. See if I can sneak in through here. This is it from the other side. And I'm going to keep showing you these peppers right here until I harvest them, because I think those are going to be my first peppers. Of course, we can wave at the dill again. And then we've got these guys over here. And this is what I mean. This is a pot that I didn't add any of the new compost in. And it looks really good. And then, if I show you over here, this is a pot that I added a good amount, not totally, of the new compost. And you can see that. And that is why, pretty sure it's the compost. I might go around to the beds that I put the compost in and add some beans and just see how they sprout. And that might tell me if my assumption is correct or not. There's nothing I can really do about it this season, but it'll give me a heads up for maybe what I need to do to the beds before next season. Here we've got the pine berries starting to take over where they probably shouldn't. I'll probably cut these runners. I don't really want them coming back past this point right here. And maybe I'll try to root the runners and plant them in other spots. But we've got this area right here that hasn't really changed much. Some of these beans are starting to come up here. They are getting devastated by something. I have zero idea what that might be. But these two pots did start out with that compost that I was just talking about, and you can kind of see a little bit on those bean leaves where things are going a little wonky. Tomatoes are looking good. Looks like I have a few peas I need to harvest, but I think the pea plants have pretty much had it, especially with the heat that is coming through right now. I think they're pretty much done. And the beets, I think within the next week, are probably going to get harvested. And I'll probably pull out most of this bed and maybe do another round of beets and maybe some more beans. We do have this little hidden bed down here where the beans are really coming up. And those cabbages that I didn't think were gonna make it are starting to fight back. So it might have been a bad idea to leave them in there. That poor eggplant is just gonna be overtaken by pine berries and beans and a cabbage. But I think the tomato plant and pepper plant back there are gonna do really well. And I do need to just rip out the cilantro and spinach in that back bed right there. I do have some summer spinach that I think will do good back there. And then I could finally get the Oya in that area, so I'm not constantly having to hand water that one. That one and this bed right here are the only two beds that aren't irrigated with my watering system. So I'm going to also pull out those lettuces because they're both starting to bolt. And then I do have Oyas for this bed as well, so I'm not constantly having to hand water. I just have to make sure that the reservoirs are filled up. This is probably where I'm going to put a couple of those angel hair squashes. I think it would look nice overflowing, at least on this side. I don't think I can do this side. I'll probably do beans and just revitalize this soil a little bit after having so many different things in here, and I haven't really topped this up at all this season. I have put some potting soil that I had left over in there, but I really haven't amended this bed. So I think beans would be a good idea, so I can just let the roots die back and bring the nitrogen back. But here we've just got the peach tree and then my adorable little blueberry plants. But overall, that is the garden right now. There are a few things that I need to turn over, but I think we're having a good season so far. As I mentioned, there are a few beds that I need to turn over. I need to rip out what's there and plant something new. I'm trying to be better at that this year. Normally, I'm not very good at continuous planting. What usually happens is I get everything planted out in May, and those are my crops for the season. I haven't always been very good at thinking about continual harvest. So now that I am in my 5th season of gardening, I am starting to kind of get into that mindset of, okay, I have an open spot. I don't necessarily need to let this plant keep growing. I can pull it out. What should I plant next? Most of the time in my own brain, it is mostly either some kind of root vegetable or some kind of bean, because I have a lot of squashes elsewhere, and I don't necessarily have a tomato or pepper that's going to grow quick enough. I could think about planting some more zucchinis and things like that, but at this point, because I think they're just going to get eaten as they sprout, I need to start those in nursery pots and keep a close eye on them. And I've already got that project going. I don't know if I necessarily want to focus on that quite yet. So probably beets and beans right now, unless you guys can think of anything else. I do have another round of lettuce, and I think once we get into September timeframe, I might start thinking about replacing some of the things in the garden as I pull it out with lettuce. But it's mostly just going to be too hot over the summer for any of that to do well, unless I have some kind of shade protection. and most areas of my garden just get blasted with sun, which is great for the tomatoes and peppers. Not so good for my daikons or my lettuces or my spinaches. It's a game of give and take. But if you want to follow me and see how my garden grows and changes as the season goes on, feel free to subscribe down below, hit the bell to do all the things to get all of the notifications. I do also have an Instagram and Threads account. If you want to follow me over there, I do try to keep up to date with what I'm harvesting and what I'm preserving as I'm doing that. And so sometimes you'll see updates over there before I will get them over here on YouTube. So feel free to follow me over there as well. Otherwise, I hope I will see you guys again in another video, and I heart your beautiful faces. Bye.